Today on Drawbli, we are drawing
thumbnail sketches.
Click that subscribe button if you are new around here.
And comment below with ideas of other things we can draw to improve.
So we are doing some thumbnail sketches. Before we started doing this, Abby, you had no idea what this was?
I had never tried it. I think I've vaguely heard of it. I was more used to gesture drawing, those quick practices.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not something I'd ever done before. Had you?
I was familiar with the concept, and I honestly would consider a lot of our little sketches in some ways to be thumbnails. I would say that I've definitely done stuff like tangential to this, but I haven't necessarily done something that I would look at and be like, yes, I am doing a thumbnail right now.
Yeah.
So with this, I was actually really excited for this one. I thought this one would be super helpful, super educational for both of us, as it would help us, forcibly focus on what is most important during these early stages, and that is just laying down those big early shapes. Do you feel like you went into this with like a specific idea? Was that like flipped on its head? What are your thoughts on thumbnails?
So I stayed very open to learning for this because, like I said, it wasn't something I'd done before. And so I hadn't experienced it in any capacity to know what I might stand to gain or not gain. So I just kept an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, we've done one other thing similar to this before, and that was our gesture drawings. And I felt like I did absolutely, well, I wouldn't say horrible on those, because I feel like I've gotten a lot better. I have gotten a lot better at gestural drawings. And it had been a long time since I'd done anything like that. And this, was kind of in that same vein where I felt like that, but I would say I hit my stride around the middle portion. And I should also mention, all of these are taken they're just stills from famous, movies. Like this one is from the new Aladdin movie. The one on the right is from, what's the one with the Here's Johnny? The guy with the axe crashes in the hotel.
The Shining.
The Shining, yeah. I've actually never seen The Shining.
I have.
And that first one was from The Avengers. There's a bunch of different movies in here. But yeah, I just kind of grabbed these, found some that I thought were interesting. What do you think of thumbnailing?
Yeah.
What do you think of our choice of thumbnails?
Well, I think the biggest value I ended up getting was from the thumbnails themselves. Drawing them, I don't know if I feel like I improved as an artist just by trying to thumbnail them out.
So you're saying the composition of these?
Yeah, I feel like it really challenged me to really examine the composition of these very well done scenes from very well done movies, and to see what are they looking for? Train my eye to see their eye.
Movies are a great place to do that.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of bright backgrounds with smaller characters on the foreground.
Keeping the focus on the face.
Yeah, keeping the focus on the face.
It's typically like a bust shot, roughly shoulders up, because you want to be able to see that person talk and express.
Yeah. I don't think I actually got that concept. Like I said, I tried to keep an open mind, but I think I was so just new to this concept of doing anything like this that I knew I was probably missing a lot of the possible benefits of doing this, just not knowing what I stood to gain.
But you do feel like you did gain something from doing this.
I gained the start. You know how you don't even know that you've gained something? If you're so new to something, you don't even always know what you've gained.
Because you don't know what you're lacking.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now, I know that bright backgrounds are good.
Bright background good. I love your dude here with the colors on the face, the purples, the reds. That's very fun. Oh my gosh,
thanks.
So I sampled colors for my thumbnails from the images because we were trying to do these super fast, 5 minutes each. So I was going quick. You were just kind of picking and choosing, at your leisure, or
I don't really actually fully recall at this point.
I at least remember you saying that you were picking your own colors.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now that I'm looking at this horse, I think I remember picking out my own colors for his trappings. There's a lot of perspective on this horse. It's kind of cool.
And there is. It's a really cool shot, which is why I picked it. There is just a lot to learn from this exercise. If this is not something that you've ever done and you are looking to improve just your ability to get down big shapes, like this is, in my opinion, one of the best exercises you can do. Like I said, I think we both kind of hit our stride right around like the halfway mid mark for these thumbnails. I think there are 12 in total. So from like 4 to, what would that be, 9? That was kind of like the sweet spot. But then after that, because we did all of these in one sitting, I started to get really fatigued and just like, it was hard.
Yeah.
These were hard. 5 minutes each,
tiring.
just one after another very quickly. It was very tiring.
Yeah.
And by the end, I think it shows. And we can maybe talk about that when those come up.
But you did a really good job with that horse one
funny.
there, by the way. I thought.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, from sampling the colors, the difference in value was very subtle, but it just like wasn't picking up in what I was painting, so I tried to exaggerate some of that. This one here, for me, was one of the most difficult. Just, I felt like there was a lot going on.
It ended up being a much more complex scene than it appears to be at first glance.
Yeah, I definitely needed to take a step back and like zoom out a lot. That was the thing that helped me the most on this exercise, was just zooming out and just trying to kind of squint my eyes and look for those big shapes.
And maybe that's another takeaway from this, is training your eye to identify what would be a good reference image for if you're sitting down to draw from reference and say, hey, I think this will be really easy to knock out, get started on, or this actually is a huge undertaking and I need to plan more time. Just based on how hard it was to thumbnail this versus some other ones.
What did you think about the shoe one that's coming up? I thought the shoe one was just so complicated and crazy.
Just a state of panic the whole time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm gaining from this, but I'm
just
trying.
Yeah. I mean, so this exercise, like I said, it kind of forces you to focus on those big shapes. And one thing that could maybe be even better for that idea is you could take all of these thumbnails and blur them slightly. Or you could take all of these thumbnails and make them a really small resolution so that you are just even more so forced to work on those, big shapes. What I was hoping with this exercise that would just kind of organically happen was that, over time we're working on these, and because of that strict time limit of 5 minutes, we are forcibly, needing to spend time on the big stuff. So that was my hope. Did that happen for you? Did you feel like you were kind of focusing on the big stuff with these? I definitely felt like I got better in that regard as I did more of these.
Yeah, it definitely pushed me away from my bad habit of trying to refine too early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although not fully away, as you can see from some of the faces that I did, there's just like still that lingering gut impulse to get the little details in there that
and
don't
it's
need
not
to be
even
there.
Necessarily about like in the moment learning, but what we're doing right now is looking back on this work that we've done, and you can see that place where maybe it fell apart, where you were like, oh, I should not have been focusing on making that guy's nose at this point. I should have just been focusing on getting the bigger shape of his head better, like getting that more accurate before I started. You can't put a nose on something that's inaccurate, or else the nose is going to be in the wrong place.
Right. I think it's interesting that you said that this reminded you very much of the gesture drawing, because for me, even though these were similar challenges of 5 short minutes apiece, this was wildly different, very wildly different.
Yeah? How so?
Well, the gesture drawing, familiar. I've done gesture drawing. I know what to expect from it, and it's a lot of line work with some emphasis on some lines over others.
Okay.
It's usually not got color. Color is still something that I, as a non-digital artist...
Well, a lot of the time, thumbnails are done in black and white, and maybe that's something we can add to this in the future to make it a little easier on us, because it was hard. This was a very, very difficult challenge.
Yeah. I guess there's that, learn that this is so much harder than it looks to thumbnail. So shout out to storyboard artists and anybody else who does large volumes of images in a short amount of time just to try to get an image and a story across. and communicate the visual piece of it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say because I don't know too much about this, but yeah, it was.
So yeah, the whole point of thumbnailing, or the whole point of at least this exercise, is to just work on these big shapes. And we can kind of look back at some of the pros and cons there with, what we've done, and now kind of retroactively see these areas and be like, oh, well, I could have done this differently. I could have focused a little more on this or that. Or, I'm wasting way too much time with using like a pencil brush when I should just be using something way bigger and just slapping that stuff on there like crazy. Because we only have 5 minutes. This one here, this is from King Kong, not the big green guy, but him. And the background, I thought was
cool.
The background was super cool. It gave an opportunity to like work on accuracy for some of these shapes. I felt like I was really happy with the quick background I made here. It was just kind of fun. I felt like it got the idea across. And then I started working on this dude's face, and that is when it fell apart. It definitely fell apart for me, and I have seen yours, and I would say that you are maybe in the same encampment.
Oh, 100%. No, this whole time I'm in the same encampment of it's all falling apart.
Yeah, so faces are very difficult, and that is because we, as people, are very good with telling when a face is off, and we are trying to create these parts of the face. So I tried very hard to not create facial features. What I tried to create were just these different larger sections of the head, trying to create these big shapes. Just to like mark out where the color was, so that if I zoomed out and blurred this image, took a really big step back, would I be able to like, have these be similar enough? But when you're working on a face in the moment, like where I am right now on this, or maybe even where you are, because it looks so awkward, it feels so off and wrong, you get stuck on that, and you get stuck in this cyclical loop of like needing to correct things because it feels off. But you shouldn't be trying to do that right now. You still need to be laying in the groundwork. So in my opinion, these kinds of close-up faces are one of the best type of exercises that you can do. It is one of the best exercises that I recommend for sculptors, for 3D artists, just to like work on faces and give yourself a really hard time limit, something really short, so that you are forced to just get in those big shapes, get in those planes, those larger landmarks as quick and as early as possible.
For that one, I ended up just focusing on the lighting in the end, trying to say, okay, I'm not going to get the face in, but I can at least try to get the moody lighting in a little bit. For this one, I don't know, the green.
This
the
is
green,
also
the foreground.
from King Kong.
Yeah, I could tell.
There were like 2 or 3 that I picked from King Kong, just because it actually had some really great thumbnails.
Oh yeah, the composition is really cool and really fun.
And I love the guy that you have in there already. Like, you're really capturing the thumbnail, like the general gist of this scene very early.
Yeah, I still don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm gaining. I don't know if I'm doing the things right or wrong.
So would you say you didn't enjoy this exercise? It sounds like.
You don't always enjoy things that help you grow, though. So that's okay. But, I felt like, oh, wow. And the whole purpose was not to have things that look good in the end. And I think that was really distracting to me. Like, oh my gosh, all of these look so bad. Because of course they do, because they're 5 minutes on these complex scenes.
Yes.
And I was letting that get in the way of trying to take in
and that's where I'm trying to get you away from.
Right. So, but I knew that I was just going to struggle with that as working on this for the very first time ever.
Yeah.
So I was open to that frustration, and just let that kind of flow through me. Let the frustration flow and just take it in.
That is definitely something that, I want you to get away from.
Yeah.
For me, even with what I do sculpturally, I am not incredibly obsessed with creating something that looks like as good as I can possibly do. Very rarely with my 2D art am I trying to do that. I am just trying to grow and improve as much as possible. And I think a lot of new artists get this misconception that every piece that you're trying to create, especially when you're new and early like we are. We are very new to creating 2D art, like very, very new to it. We are not, like I am not as particularly trying to create amazing pieces that I absolutely love when I look at them at the end. I am trying to gain the most mileage as possible, to grow as much as possible, as fast as possible when I'm creating something specifically like this assignment. But when I'm, spending an hour on something or even a few hours like we've been doing with some of our newer stuff, sometimes I am trying to really push that to be something that I'm proud of with my current skill level.
Absolutely.
This one was the hardest one for me, by the way. I did horrible on that one.
This one was very hard. At this point, we'd been doing these long enough that I was really hoping, and in my head, like, okay, I think I'm starting to, gain a little more insight into what I'm hopefully trying to gain from this. This overall picture, this big image.
The big picture, that's right.
Which I knew was the point, but at the same time, I wasn't feeling yet. So still trying to feel that, to
knowing
tune
and
into
doing
that.
are two very different things, especially when it comes to art.
Exactly. So did I get there? No. But, that's the journey of 1,000 miles. It's starting with this single step, and I stepped right into a puddle. But you got to start somewhere. And even if you're not, nobody's going to knock one out of the park with their very first step, or if you do, good for you. But
no, nobody is.
But you have to take that first step at some
will.
point. And until I take this step, I can't take a further step.
I think that this is a very important step to take, and one that we will take many times in the future. Essentially, what we are doing here is a shortened version of our very early Drawbli episodes, where we would spend 1 hour on each, or 30 minutes.
30 minutes on
each.
We were very quick.
One thing I forgot here with this was that the black bars on the top and bottom, so I had to throw those in later because they were messing up my proportions for my thing here. I unfortunately ran out of time on this one way too fast, but
well, that's kind of the point, just block in what you can and move on, get what you can and go from there.
Yeah, you've done I think a fantastic job of blocking in on this one, just those main shapes. Proportionally where you have that, it feels really good.
Thanks. This guy, I feel like I changed the whole message of his hair.
Do you know who that is?
Is it Bruce Willis?
It is not Bruce Willis. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head, but it's the newer James Bond.
Oh,
this
yeah, I
is
have no idea.
From one of the James Bonds. Look at my beautiful face over here. Just
oh my
coming
gosh!
together. I'm just trying to scribble in splotches of light really quick, so it gets super muddy. But I was hoping that I could have that read enough from a distance. So we'll see them all together at once here at the end, and we can all maybe blur our eyes together, or we can do a little post processing, a little editing, throw a little blur on there.
Oh yeah,
and see how our thumbnails kind of line up with our images. That'll be fun. That'll be a good way
that'll be a good time
to kind of view that. How'd you feel about this last one? I was just at this point, my brain was melted, and I was like, oh, I just got to get this last one done.
This one was probably the one that I finally felt really warmed up on, and even though it was 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I think I'm still getting across what this is and what's happening a little bit. Again, my brain at the time didn't go much farther than, okay, person on light background. That is good composition according to the movies.
According to the movies.
But not in every case.
Yeah,
Contrast.
I think it's less the lighting in this case. It's more so the focus, right? Look at the focus of the camera. If you want to talk composition, even the gun that she's holding is blurred out. The focus is on her expression, or her reaction, whatever's going on.
Oh, I didn't take that in at all.
And the background is obviously, blurred out. So there's a really tight focus on this shot. If you want to talk cinematography here.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are really into cinematography. A lot of people study that in college just as as an interest.
I did myself.
Oh, yeah?
Not as an interest, but as a part of my degree.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a very difficult exercise. I feel like you are in a place where I am with gesture drawings with this exercise.
Yeah.
We've kind of swapped seats a little bit here.
So.
Where I'm much more comfortable with blocking in big stuff and, having it not look super great. But here at the end, with all of them on screen, we'll do a little post-processing and have these be blurred out so we can kind of compare for all of ours, yes.
Yep.
So what do you think? What do you think?
I think I'm sticking to what I said. I'm sticking to my story. I don't know what I learned too much yet, but this was the first step towards learning something that I don't know yet.
On a scale of difficulty 1 to 10, what do you think of this exercise?
I didn't think it wasn't that it was hard. It was that for me so far, it wasn't gratifying.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, a lot of the time, so gratifying as in the result wasn't gratifying? Mm-hmm. Well, the result, I have some bad news for you, is not going to be gratifying for a long time for both of us.
Exactly. So very comfortable in that.
Yeah, it's like rock climbing, right? We rock climb a lot. You're not going to be able to do that really hard, gratifying route until you do all those
yes,
easy
I
rounds.
am.
Well, you're good at rock climbing, but at one point you weren't. Same idea.
And I want to hear from you, though, all about, a little bit more about how you felt about the thing. Did you feel like you improved in your eye and ability to see?
Absolutely, yeah, I do feel like I improved. The whole point of this exercise, we're showing them blurred here really quick so we can just take a step back. Abby and I are crossing our eyes a little bit just so we can kind of get that same effect. But the whole point of this exercise is to just really focus on the big picture, and it helps improve speed. It helps alleviate you from working on things that you shouldn't be working on during those early stages. It is what I preach in 3D, which is the most important thing, which is the foundation to an image. So the practice here is on foundation, and like you said, it's very difficult. I think it's a really difficult thing to grasp and understand, because you can even understand it mentally and not understand it physically, but it is something that we will get better with time.
And I want to encourage you in your good decision in picking this assignment, because in the future, in a upcoming episode, I take some of what I learned here and I actually apply it to great effect.
I can't wait to see.
Yes, I think you'll love it. It's gonna involve a boat.
Ooh, okay.
And a famous artist.
Oh, okay. I have an idea. All right, well, click that subscribe button if you are new around here.
And comment below with ideas of other things that you think could improve our journey to become great artists.
Our journey!
Our journey!
And this is the part where we say
goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Our journey!
Our journey?
Journey!
Journey? This is nothing.
Journey.
Oh, no.
This is not.
My leg fell asleep.